customers. Well, they've got 30 sites. They've got more than 30 customers, but they've got 30 sites that they run. And it enables them to set up a site, for a retailer which wants to enter this market. They can go to SingPost. They call it e-commerce as a service. So not just the cloud computing, but they do all the software. They do all the fulfillment, and they even do the call center as a service. This has actually reinvented SingPost into be a formidable e-commerce player. And they were able to concentrate on all the statistics about, follow through, click through, and buy through, and which markets are growing, and how they can be a successful e-commerce retailer and do successful distribution, and not have to worry about provisioning, servers, network, bandwidth. They passed all of that to AWS, and it's been very successful for them. It's accounting for a notable part of their revenue, which they're doing very well. And there's a number of brands that are using SingPost to do their e-commerce. This brings me on to the fourth reason I want to talk about today, which is the elasticity. I think we heard it earlier from True, how the elasticity is important. So there's a number of elements here. So firstly, there's the immediate deployment. And I talked about making your server or your instance a piece of config or a piece of code. So if you store that piece of config, what does that mean? It means you can just deploy more immediately as you go, so you can scale up. I'll give you the first example of elasticity. Don't know if anyone's heard of Airbnb, but it's a website. Again, it started in San Francisco in America, where people could put their property for rental. And if you go on holiday, you can rent someone's house rather than go to a hotel. It's been very successful. I hope some of you heard of it. There's a lot of people at Amazon actually use it when they travel to go and stay somewhere different to a hotel. 150,000 people a night are hosted through Airbnb. Now that's, in hotel chain size goes, that's a formidable number. Any hotel would like 150,000 people. So they came out of nowhere. And do they have any servers? No. They started on day one with one EC2 instance. And then they grew. Great, I've got my big screen again. And then by 2013, they had 4 million registered users using their service. It was busy. They grew their number of EC2 instances. By September that year, they'd gone up to 9 million users. This is a lot of users. It's a lot, it's going to cost you a lot of CapEx and facilities management to do that. How did they do it? They increased their EC2 instances. They went from 400 up to 1,000. Piece of config, deploy another 400 servers or whatever it was. Really small operations team. No procurement, no racking, no patching, nothing. They did that. So that's just one example of the elasticity. As your business grows, the number of instances grow with it. So the old model was predicted demand. Yeah, so you went like that. And you bought servers to give you capacity for that much. But your actual demand went like this. So what happened in this space is you were really over-provisioned. You predicted this much, you had this much capacity, this was your actual demand, and you've got waste. So again, going back to the saving money. And then what happens, you have a successful marketing campaign, or your business takes off, and your users rocket up, and you're right up here. Then what happens, because you haven't predicted that load, your capacity is down here, and you've got a lot of dissatisfied customers in here. And then you catch up, and you keep buying infrastructure in that way. It's not good. There's no good value for the business there, and no good value for the business there either. With cloud computing, your actual demand or your capacity follows your actual demand. So there's no waste, and there's no bad customer experience. So that's a formidable reason to use the cloud rather than something which won't give you that elastic deployment. I'll briefly mention a couple more types of the elasticity or the importance of elasticity. I touched on one earlier with the development environments. But on a daily cycle, if you're in a particular region, I don't know if any of you have run any high-traffic e-commerce sites. I used to work at News International, and it was the website for The Times and The Sun newspaper in the UK. That's the biggest selling daily and the biggest selling national. It was a very busy website. And lunchtime, the traffic used to surge. Actually, it'd pick up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd have a morning rush when everyone got to their desk and would read the paper. Lunchtime, huge rush. Afternoon, and then tail off through the night. And we had huge amount of servers and caches and proxies and all sorts of equipment. Most of it was idle most of the time, but at lunchtime it was very, very busy. Actually, it was 700 megabits of traffic busy, and that was 7 years ago. So this other type of scaling is, some companies do this, it's you can scale down during the night. So if you've got a fleet of 10 servers for your peak capacity, you scale down to 4 servers during the night, and then back up to 10 servers during the day. So immediately you've made some cost saving. And on top of that scaling on a schedule up and down day and night, we have a service called auto-scaling, and it's included with Elastic Compute Cloud, and you set a metric, whether it's a threshold on CPU or memory or network throughput or number of TCP connections or any metric that you want to do in CloudWatch, which I mentioned earlier, which is the analytics and monitoring. You set a metric to monitor, and when you hit that, spin up another server as you've got stored as a piece of config. Remember, we called it infrastructure as code or infrastructure as config. Deploy another one. So you elastically scale based on demand. So there's a few things. There's, as your business grows, you scale up. As it goes up and down through the day and night, you go up and down. And you can also auto-scale based on demand. That's unprecedented. That means you'll never be caught, live events or, ticket sales. Launch of the iPhone, Singtel, they were telling us. When in Singapore, when the iPhone launched, huge traffic to the website. And they need to scale up for that 1 week when the iPhone launches, and then back down again. Significant value for the business. Okay, it'll bring me on to my last point. Go global in minutes. I think I mentioned this is what Netflix did. They'd been operating their business in North America. They deployed to Ireland. We know Netflix are opening in Sydney in March, and they'll just deploy their CloudFormation template into Sydney, and away you go. You can do that too. You can launch your business in your market here. Should you want to extend to another region in Asia or in Europe, you've got your configuration, you've got your infrastructure as code. This, again, is unprecedented. You need to go out and look at facilities and all that kind of stuff. So that'd be the 5th reason that the cloud makes so much difference to business. Okay, so I've talked about all those benefits of the cloud, but we realize you can't kind of change overnight. So some enterprises, some businesses worry, what do we do? Do we suddenly have to do everything in the cloud? Or do we build a private cloud, we do everything on site? The good news is it's not an all or nothing choice. You can have your existing on-premises, whether it's co-located or at your premises, and then you can use your cloud resources. If you speak to True, they're going to be able to help you do this. We're pleased to announce they've got the direct connect relationship with us. They've got direct connect right into our Singapore region, right from their facilities. So you can take advantage of all of the cloud services that I've talked about today. And you can still leverage your on-site or your co-located applications and businesses. You can think about some new applications. You might do backup into the cloud to start with, or you might move some of your web properties, or all sorts of workloads. We actually think the cloud supports virtually every use case for today and tomorrow. There's the speed, the agility, the infrastructure as code. And when your engineers start to think about infrastructure as code rather than as servers, it unleashes a lot of possibilities. And then with an unmatched platform and breadth of services and continuous iteration and new services being announced, geographic reach, I mentioned 52 edge locations. We think it's useful in every use case, in every business, both today and tomorrow. So with that, I'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you again to True. Oh, one last point. We're at the back. We have a booth. So at 325, the True guys, who are now a consulting partner of Amazon, and they can help you realize all these benefits, they're going to be demonstrating how to use AWS. I didn't do anything technical. I didn't show you any technical deep dive, but they'll be able to show you at the back a little bit later on today. So do go and speak to them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. เพราะฉะนั้นฟัง Data Center เรียบร้อยแล้วครับแล้วฟัง AWS เรียบร้อยแล้วถ้าท่านต้องการบริการนี่ก็บอกครับเราเป็นพาร์ทเนอร์กับ AWS จากประเทศไทยวิ่งมาสิงคโปร์ผ่าน True เร็วกว่า Public Internet 10 เท่าถ้าท่านต้องการบริการโลโก้ให้เรา consult ให้เขาช่วยไปหาที่บริษัทท่านนะครับ ไม่ต้องขึ้นเว็บนะครับเราไปได้ถ้าท่านไม่อยากใช้บัตรเครดิต invoice เราก็ทำได้แล้วถ้าเกิดท่านต้องการ cloud ไม่ใช่แค่ต่างประเทศภายในประเทศสปีกเกอร์ถัดไปของเราจะมาเล่าให้ฟัง Our next speaker is a Chief Technology Officer of Huawei. I'd like to invite Ron Roethlisberger to speak about infrastructure as a service, please.
Thank you, sir. So I don't know if I can figure this out. So we've heard a lot about basic infrastructure, the facility itself. We've heard a little bit about pure cloud kind of service. I'd like to, on behalf of Huawei, thank True IDC for this opportunity. Huawei, many of you may know us as a provider of communications equipment to telephone companies. True on their carrier side is a big customer of Huawei's, as are all of the carriers in Thailand and certainly actually around the world. We've also recently gotten into smartphones, so many of you may have a nice Huawei smartphone. But we also have gotten into the IT arena, and that's what I'd like to talk about because Huawei is the infrastructure partner for the cloud offerings of True, and we are working together to be able to provide this set of capabilities and to the customers here in Thailand. Huawei actually is a provider of infrastructure services to quite a large number of operators throughout the world, including Europe, South America, and of course across Asia. So what I'd like to do is focus just around the infrastructure as a service. So I think we've seen an awful lot about their, cloud-based services are growing quickly. Everybody's getting into this. But there's certainly different types of cloud services. And I think that that's one of the messages that you should take away from today is that not all clouds are created equal. And it's not just about the data center. It's not just about the, how many instances you can get up. But you also have to have all of the capabilities together. So you have to actually make sure that your customers can actually reach your applications in the cloud, whether those customers are internal or your own employees or whether they're external. And you have to make sure that it's always running so that your partner for the cloud not only has a very secure infrastructure, has the capabilities that you're looking for, but continue to provide them and be able to support your business going forward. So that's why the service provider and why True IDC is so important to this equation. And there's lots of different kinds of service models. And infrastructure as a service is what I'm going to talk about. You're going to have some speakers that come after, which talk about the next layers, which is around the platform. So the infrastructure as a service is the foundation for everything. And that's the most important to make sure that the servers, the storage, the cloud infrastructure are the solid foundation for applications to be built on top of. Then you can have the platform, as was mentioned earlier, the build part of your applications, and then actually use the ability to take the applications and actually use them, software as a service. So I'm going to focus around infrastructure as a service. And I think it was mentioned during the Amazon presentation that cloud is not the same as virtualization. So virtualization gets you a lot of benefits, right? It allows you, this is an example from Huawei internally, when we went from having all of our internal development environments running on dedicated servers and our test environments, integration environments, and all of the PCs that went with that, we moved all of that into an internal virtualization environment, an internal cloud, if you will. Huge amounts of savings, right? 40% on our CapEx, 10 times improvement on CPU utilization. But IaaS is actually different than that. It's an expansion of that. And it's primarily around the things that the Amazon presentation talked about is the ability to be able to change your use habits. So in the case of Huawei, during the day, we're doing all of our development. During the night, those same virtual resources are redeployed to do automated builds, testing, etc. So you can change the usage on the fly based on the kinds of demands, and you can do it based on the time of day, on the different kinds of applications. And of course, one of the advantages is that you then only use it when you need it. Right? So, and things go very, very fast. You can deploy in minutes instead of weeks. You don't have to go to your purchasing department, go through a process of getting bids and all of the rest of this stuff to be able to get servers. You simply sit down at a